Hello there, this is a video accompanying the Joomla tutorial series developing an MVC component, and in this step we're looking at adding an update server. So you've gone through all the steps and developed your component, and now you're ready to make it available to the general public. So they can come along and take it from your development site and install it on their system. But what do they do about getting updates, newer versions of your components? You don't want to have to force them to come along to your site every time there's an update available. So what you do is really use the Joomla framework, which allows you to build an update server, and that's what this step is all about. So what I've done is I've done the code for this step, which is basically just the new manifest file, and zipped that up and just installed that on my machine here. So as it says in the tutorial step, the whole process of getting updates is a two-step process. And the first step is getting the updates or finding the updates which are available. And this slide depicts what Joomla does. So whenever we go along to extensions and manage and update, and we get to this picture here, we have a button here which is called Find Updates, which I'm going to press in a couple of moments. And what it's going to do is it's going to go particularly from this table here, update sites, and it's going to find the update servers, make HTTP requests to them, and get back details of what updates are available. So if we look at this table first, update sites, and I'll just click on this here. And here we have a number of extensions which are using this update server mechanism to download updates. And we've got down at the bottom here, we've got our Hello World updates. And with each extension, we've got the location of an XML file. And we'll cover the collection side of things later, but most of these are typed extensions. And with one of those sort of extensions, there's a URL there, and the URL really points to an XML file. So what the find updates process will do is it will send an HTTP request to each of those URLs and expect to get back an update file. And the format of the update file is, as described in here. It's this sort of thing here. So if we look at what I've got set up here, I've got set up in this kind of like the server area. I've got set up an update file, which is this one here. And if I double click on that, you'll be able to see it. Oops. And here I've got two updates. And the first update is 1.0.0. And it requires a minimum of PHP version 5.3, and the second update is 1.0.1, but it requires a minimum version of 7.1, which I don't have on this machine. So that's the XML file that is going to be returned whenever the find update process goes along to my update server, which, as I said, is really just this directory below my www, which my WAMP server, my Apache server as part of WAMP, is servicing. And what it will do is it will bring back that XML file, and it will check that XML file against some of the details in these tables here. So if we look at those tables, our update sites extensions is really like a kind of like a join table between update sites and extensions. Our extensions was Hello World updates. Our update site number was 18, and this is kind of linking the update site with 10036, which is the extension ID of my Hello World update. But you can see up here that there are a number of update sites which handle different extensions. And if we look at what number 2 is on our update sites, we'll see that number 2 is the accredited Joomla translations. So with that, Joomla makes available all of the translations and all the different extensions through the same update site. And we'll have a look at that later on when we look at collections. And the other table that it looks through is extensions. So if I click on the extensions table, you will see, hopefully soon, you'll see the sort of thing that's in the extensions table. We've got an extension ID in this field, in this column here. And if we go down to 10036, we can see that's com Hello World. That's our Hello World application. We've also got things like the name, the type is key, type is component for us, the element, which will be com Hello World. Folder is really for plugins, client ID, site or what do you call it? Administrator, and manifest cache. So for example, if we look down at our Hello World record, we will see that 1036, the client ID is 1, which means it's the administrator. It's component com Hello World, and if we click on this field here, and I'll just zoom in on that, you can see the details which are in the manifest file, which are copied into this field here. And in particular, we can see that it's 0.0.33, which is the version. So as I said, whenever the find updates gets that XML file back, it checks the details in that file against some of the details in these tables here to make sure it's got the right extension, for example. And then for the updates which it finds are valid, it puts them into this updates table here. So what I'm going to do is go over here and I'm going to click on Find Updates. And I said, what is this going to do is it's going to get back those XML files, and hopefully it will include in that our Hello World. And you can see our Hello World component down there. And you can also see up here a message for the extension Hello World component. Version 1.0.1 is available, but it requires PHP version 7.1. So it has obviously analyzed our, I think this is it here, our updates file, and notice that 1.1.1.0.1, while it's available, it isn't possible to put it on because it's a minimum of 7.1. So it's trying to get the most recent version, but you can't get the most recent version if the PHP version doesn't match. And what this has then done is it put all those updates into this updates table. So if we go down to look at updates, you can see that there are a whole lot of updates in this table. And if we go down to the bottom, there's our Hello World update. Hello World component, and it's got that 1.0.0 is available, and this is the updates XML file. This is the info HTML file that I've just put in this folder about 1.0.0, and if I double click on that, it will just come up at update to version 1.0.0. And I've also got in that directory the 2 download files, the 2 zip files for the 2 versions that I've got there. So as I say, all of the updates get put into this table, and you can see not only updates from the extensions like Akiba Backup, which you can see here, but you can also see there's a couple of updates available for French, German, and New Zealand English. So that's some of these ones up here. English New Zealand is available, and there's Spanish and German, French. So what happens with Joomla is that when it gets all of these updates back, it puts everything into the updates table, and that includes these extensions which you can see here, which are visible by this update. It also includes languages which aren't like these, which are already installed and have updates, but are also available, and I haven't installed them. So if I click on installed languages, these are really coming from that updates table as well, and you can see some of them have got reinstall because I've got them already installed, but a lot of them have just got installed, and those are really the ones that are in this table which have an extension ID of 0 because they're not actually installed. And also you can see at the very top Joomla with the extension ID of 700, and version available is 3.9.4. So this is the core Joomla which is available, which is also in that update file. And if we went along to components and Joomla update, and I'll just open that in a new tab, it also is picking that information up from that updates table. You can see there 3.9.4 is available. Okay, so that's the find updates side of things. The second step then in this whole process is the install updates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to here to my updates, and I'm going to install the new version of Hello World. So I'm going to click on there and then press install, or update, sorry. And what that is going to do is it's going to read the updates from that table. It's then going to go to the update server. I just see that this is installed successfully. So it's been installed and it's actually disappeared from the updates available. So it's going to go along to that update server, get the XML file back again, do the checks here to make sure that nothing in the interim has kind of gone bad. And then one of the things that it's got in that XML file is the download URL. So it's going to then make an HTTP request to this URL, and that is going to then return in the HTTP response that zip file, which Joomla is then going to put into its temp file and just really install it from there. So it's basically the same as doing an extension install from a URL. And that's basically what all there is to it. So in terms of setting up an update server, this is really what you have to do. You have to get something like a directory somewhere available on the internet, set up these updates.xml files, the various versions that you have. The information is just an optional information file which tells your users about what is in that version, for example, and just a blank index.html for security purposes. So we've covered pretty much all of what's on this page here, except I just wanted to say at the end a little bit about collections. So we have in our updates, we have got a couple of collections. So if we go on update sites, we have got a couple of types which are collections, sorry. If we go and update sites here, you'll see them as well. So we've got Joomla core, and the languages are both set up as type collections, and this really gives you kind of like an extra degree of flexibility, because what it allows you to do is you can have several extensions like this: French, German, I think there was Spanish, English, New Zealand, all under the same XML file, the same update server. And if we just look at this XML file, I think I've got it open here, sorry, here. You've got the extension set as is described in the tutorial page, but under that extension set you've got each of these extensions, and the thing about these extensions is it's got a separate details URL file, and if we went along to that details URL file, we'd just see the same. This is the French one. We would just see the same as our updates.xml file. So what it allows you to do, as I said, is to have a kind of like an extra degree of flexibility here in allowing you to have number of updates files associated with your update server. So you would use this, for example, if our hello world wasn't just a single component, but it was a package which say had a component and a couple of plugins and something else, and you wanted to allow your users to update those separately, then you could have something like a collections. And similarly with the update of Joomla itself, if we see Joomla here, Joomla core is set up as a collection, and if we look at the XML file there, we've got extensions, and most of them have the same updates file, but this first one for version 2 of Joomla has a separate extensions.xml file. So Joomla are using this to use a separate XML file, updates XML file, for the different versions of Joomla. But basically, as I said, it allows you to have different updates files for the same kind of like package that you've got there. And we can obviously set that up for our hello world. And I'll just, I'm going to install that version, which is in the tutorial code down at the bottom here. But first of all, what I want to do is go and delete what we have at present. So I'm going to delete this hello world updates record from our update sites, and similarly from our updates extensions, I'm going to delete this record associated with com hello world. So that's gone completely, and I'm going to go and install the new version of com hello world, which has got the extensions, or sorry, the collections type there. So if I go on to this and click on hello world.xml, you'll see down the bottom it's got a server type of collection. So this is what we're installing now. So that is installed correctly, and we can see if we refresh this, we've now got hello world updates back again, and it's set up as an extension, and it's now going to go to a list.xml file. And if we just I'll just copy that there, and that's basically the file that is in our in the tutorial code. Notice it's got things like the element, com hello world, component, administrator, and we need those sorts of things because, as I said, Joomla, whenever it finds those updates, is going to do a bit of validation against this information here. So we need to have some of that stuff in our extension set there. It's also going to be in our update sites extensions. There it is down at the bottom. And again, we can go on to extensions update and find updates, and it's going to go ahead and access that list.xml file and check that that is a valid extension for Hello World, and you can see there it has appeared. And you will maybe have noticed that the warning didn't come up there, and the warning was associated with version 1.0.1 being available, but it couldn't be loaded because of 7.1. So it hasn't actually gone ahead and analyzed that update file. It's just actually picked it. Just notice the list.xml file, this file here. It hasn't analyzed this file the way it did before. And the other thing to maybe notice is whenever you click on the control panel, and you probably have seen this yourself, is after a while this appears, which is Joomla 3.9.4 is available, and and what is happening here is that you've got little AJAX requests that are going up to the server, and one of them is, I don't think I've got debug tools on at the moment, have I? But if you put debug tools on, you'll see those AJAX requests going up. One of them is for everything else apart from Joomla. So it's excluding Joomla. It's got skip equals 700, and the other is for EID equals 700, which is particularly looking for Joomla. Remember, whenever we went to the updates table here, the first update that we found was for Joomla. Dates have to go down. There it is there. Joomla 700. Okay, so I think that is basically all I was wanting to cover. I feel as if this is probably going to be the last step in the tutorial. We've covered pretty much everything I could think of, and it could well be the last video. So if you've gone through all the steps and through all of the code changes, well, congratulations, that's some effort. And I wanted to wish you well with all your Joomla development in the future. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.